Just like I far surpass the knowledge of all those people around me from just observing from the cuts. That's what the Zionists do. That's what the dark history of the popes is talking about. It's talking about people like Simon the Sorcerer. It's talking about Pope John. Okay? Raymond Roger and the Cathars. The Viziers. The fort at Carcassonne, where Raymond Rogers went out of his way to protect and reinforce, just to be captured in chains and accused of dying of dysentery. It is important to notice that the Cathars started emerging in 1143, and that those paintings of many famous paintings of their persecutions, and Pope Gregory the Ninth, he catches a lot of heat for his supporting Leberg. And when he catches a lot of heat, he pretends to dismiss him but keeps him on. He pretends to stop following his line of thought, but he keeps him on. So the Inquisition going after witches, you had them going after Cathars. You had Pope Gregory had a brothel in the Vatican. You had the rule of the harlots. Yet everyone knew that the Holy Roman Empire and Pope John the 12th, I believe it was, had a brothel just like Pope Gregory had a secret brothel by the Vatican. Pope John the 12th had a brothel at the Church of St. John Lateran. And he's the one who crowned the Holy Emperor Otto I in 962 Common Era. So what are we talking about here? What about Arnaud Amore, who led the Crusades that crushed the heretics in France? What about all the Pope's assistants who were stabbed in the heart, and the Prime Minister of the Pope who stabbed in the back? What about the assassination at Avignon? Avignonet. And the last of the Cathars, Guillaume Belibaste. What about that? About all the innocent victims tortured by the Vatican, women accused of witchcraft and raped, stretched out naked, and all the false offers of clemency. What about Madonna Oriente? Why don't we get into that? Why don't we elaborate on that? While you Trinitarians are pretending I'm wrong. What about Calixtus calling for the crusade? What about Pope Nicholas? Guys, don't understand that when they made the name the dark history of the popes and the Vatican and the assassinations and the holy royal families of the world manipulating the world through the Vatican and their faith in God 1,000 years after Christ, just like the Libyans 1,000 years before Christ was manipulating the image of God in Egypt, and 1,000 years before that in Babylon. What are these white devils up to? What about Galileo and the Venetian nobles in 1610? And Copernicus? These great European minds, and how they oppressed people like Galileo and forced them into secret societies. So you had the holy orders, and then you had secret societies that opposed them. And there was good and bad guys on both sides, in all factions. And in 1641 and 1642, when Galileo died in January, the first month of the year, It was centuries after that before we appreciated his struggle. The masses were blind sheep bootlickers. What about the Italian independence and Giuseppe Garibaldi? Not to be confused with Giuseppe Mazzini, the scumbag. What about Pope Pius? What about papal policy, which is failed policy? The Franco-Prussian War in 1871. Napoleon III being captured and exiled in England. What about all the prisoners of the Vatican? What about Pope Pius XII, who supported the Nazis and was a fucking anti-Semite, while collaborating with the traitor Jews? What about the plot to kidnap the Pope? Why don't we talk about that? Before you start talking about there's no conspiracies, what about reading the motherfucking history of the popes? And on the front cover, it says vice, murder, and corruption. Thank you.